This is density. And when you plug it into an outlet, it will immediately count the number of people in a room. The longer it listens, the better the data becomes. It does this by listening to your smartphone's Wi-Fi address or MAC address. It's anonymous. It doesn't know that it's you or me. It just knows that a unique individual is there. This is Rob. Rob owns a cafe, and we recently shipped one of these devices to him. And using the density application, it was easy for him to get started. He plugged it into an outlet. He gave the device an internet connection, or a Wi-Fi connection, and it immediately counted the number of people in his venue. Now, that's a real-time count at the top, and you can see beneath that a bunch of locked data and statistics, or graphs. We do that for two reasons. One, because seeing zeros and flat graphs on day one sucks, and two, because it's our method of re-engagement. So as time passes, 10 days, 30 days, 60 days, density collects enough information to notify him that we have relevant data for him. When he goes back into his dashboard, he can see new information, like visitor count this week, average visitor duration spent per day, how many people, uniques he's getting per month, and even new versus loyal. So the next time he sponsors a buy local dinner, he can see a surge or a spike in new customers coming to his business. This is data that Rob has never had before, and he's certainly not had it in his mobile device. Now, he actually owns 3 different cafes across the same city, so while he's out picking up his nephew from soccer practice, he can still keep track of the foot traffic to each of these venues. Density is a device. Density is a mobile application, but what is remarkable about density is its network. So with it installed in many other businesses in the same city, in Rob's city, he can see information that he's never been able to see before in relation to other businesses, who he shares customers with, where foot traffic is trending, where loyal customers also love to go. Now, Rob is actually trying to improve his wholesale bean business, so he goes up to the top, you share customers with, clicks number 1, which is a grocery store called Grassroots, and can see that greater than 30% of the customers that shop at his cafe also shop at this grocery. But they don't carry his beans. They don't carry his coffee. So he reaches out to the owner, Abigail, and he says, I'm reasonably confident that you'll be able to move my coffee if you stock it. Density has given Rob all the data that he needs to be a better business. And in effect, density is unearthing a network that already exists, a network that you and I are a part of. So the next time you're at a crowded bar, look up. It's all lost data, simply because no one was listening. Thank you.
OK. Thoughts on density?
You're using Wi-Fi.
Right into the microphone if you can.
Sorry,
you're using, tilt it up, yeah.
Yeah, you're using Wi-Fi to. To determine if someone's there. It's counting someone based upon their Wi-Fi being on. How many people actually keep their Wi-Fi on all the time?
We were at a stadium with 20,000 attendees for one of the events, and we got 71%. So it's a statistically relevant amount of data, but I would say that what we're looking for is trends, not necessarily individuals, so it's OK if the numbers aren't specific.
Speaking of individuals versus trends, what do you do in terms of privacy and anonymizing the data?
All the data is hashed, so we don't actually see the MAC addresses themselves. We also have gone to great lengths to have frequently asked questions for users and an easy way to opt out. Because this isn't opt-in and we're essentially getting an enormous number of people who don't realize they're being tracked, it was important for these local businesses to indicate to their customers that they are being tracked. Their movement is being picked up.
Have you noticed any downward trend once people find out that they're being tracked?
No, it's actually the reason that we, well, not in a really major way. It was the reason that we went after local businesses first, because there's sort of a good faith relationship that already exists between the customer and the owner. And if I know that I'm helping a local business by sharing some of my movement data, I'm kind of all for that as a resident.
So how do you get to that local density that starts to provide some of the business intelligence? And once you're at that density, do you run into any data quality problems in terms of actually knowing which retailer, which storefront a user is in?
Yeah. So 2 things. I'll start from the last one first. We're working on a system that will allow you to when you do the installation, walk the perimeter of your location so we can get a sense of how far away the device is from our sensor. And then the other question was,
how do you get to the density of retailers within an area?
yeah, I mean, if you're in a half-mile radius or a mile radius and you get 30 different locations, you're going to get some really interesting, like, referential data. So it doesn't take all that much to be useful, but we wanted to make sure that at least on an individual level, it's useful for the business, even if there isn't a network. In fact, our pricing might follow that. Like, as the network grows, we price higher to buy in.
That was actually a question around pricing. So there's a device price, and then is there like a monthly subscription fee? Are you providing reports? Is there a CRM system on the back of it? Like, how are you giving tools to these local merchants?
So everything is delivered through the mobile application. Everything from installation to the graphs and the historical data. We don't do custom reports outside of that. We kind of want to make the data approachable. And then the other thing is the device is free. It's $50 a month, and you return it to us if you stop paying or you continue to pay $50 a month. It's the equivalent of 2 meals for a business. We were trying to make it as easy to say yes as possible.
Cool. Love the idea. Two questions here. One, so get the value to the shopkeeper or many different venues, but what's the value to the consumer? Because I imagine things like, let's go to the gym, and I don't have to show up when it's fucking packed, go to downtime, or how many girls are actually at this club, which relates to my second question. Are you profiling people, even though it's anonymous? If you look at where they're coming from, they came from a girls' store to this club, you can start to understand age and demographics without asking for that data. So what's the value of the consumer, and how are you profiling people?
Yeah. We're not trying to really go after profiling just yet, mostly because we're not entirely sure how people will react to the privacy concerns. So it's sort of important to get to a point where people are comfortable leaving their Wi-Fi on and wandering through the local network, one. And then two, you were asking about...
What's the value to the consumer?
Well, eventually, once it's installed at sort of a larger scale, we want to use that data in a consumer application so that people can see how busy a location is, like you had suggested, or whether or not,
So I get the eventually. Is your strategy to expose it so I could potentially do something with it, or you want to actually build an interface to the consumer?
I mean, I would love to simply open up our API to other developers to build on top of it. I think there's all sorts of interesting city planning things that could come from this at scale, but I think it's far enough out that I don't necessarily have answers to the question.
Let's hear it for density.
Thank you.
Let's hear it for density.